I mean, I don't want to explicitly say who I was voting for this year, but come on. Spoiler alert, you know. What is up, Star Wars fans? Welcome back to my channel. The brand new episode of The Mandalorian is here. It is called The Siege. I'm excited to talk about it. I need you in the comments down below. Let me know, do you like this series of videos I'm doing? Are you enjoying The Mandalorian Season 2? We had some very interesting things, not only about Mandalorian in this episode, but really involving the future, or maybe the past, when it comes to Star Wars. Let's talk about it. One thing I want to point out here is this episode not only starred Carl Weathers, it was directed by Carl Weathers, Grief himself. So I was excited to see what he was going to do behind the camera. And this is essentially, and I want to say you're typical because that makes it sound like a bad thing. You're almost Star Wars 101, right? We're going to go to this place, we're going to do this thing, and then there's going to be this great escape sequence, which they absolutely deliver on. I want to give kudos to Carl Weathers for doing a really good job keeping this concise, not falling into the traps that certain, and not Star Wars in general, but movies, they tend to fall into traps when they construct an episode or a movie like this. So Carl Weathers, I think, did a good job of refraining from falling into those cliches, kept the episode concise. It's very easy to figure out what they're doing here. But I like seeing the return of Grief, of Cara Dune, of a character in Mythrol, I think is his name, that I didn't think we were going to see again. I thought he was hilarious in what was, I think, the first episode of The Mandalorian when he was frozen in carbonite. That's when we really set up what this universe was going to be. He returns, played by Horatio Sands, and just such a nice comedic presence, one that I think was necessary for an episode filled with not only Star Wars Easter eggs, but great Baby Yoda moments. The moment where he's sitting in the classroom and he's really interested in what this kid next to him is eating, and of course he uses the Force to bring it over to him. A very Baby Groot moment at the beginning of the episode when he's trying to figure out where to put the wires and make sure that they do not touch each other. But of course, hijinks. What's going to happen? They touch each other, sparks begin to fly, and that is really the classic sense of humor. It's almost like this zany, wacky, Looney Tunes-esque sense of humor that I think really helps an episode like this. An episode filled with lots of tension, an episode filled with lots of things that maybe you need to pay attention to as a Star Wars fan, and then you have the sense of humor to add levity, to lighten things up. It's necessary. I thought it was a very well-written episode in that regard as well. But the really important topic here is the fact that they do, once they get into what they discover is a lab, find out things that I think mean a lot for the Star Wars universe. So, obviously, in Rise of Skywalker, we were dealing with the Emperor Palpatine clone situation. And obviously, the fact that this is a prequel, what this does is it kind of gives us an idea of what the Empire was doing. Why have they been after Baby Yoda this entire time? Well, clearly, they need something from him. What do they need? It looks like they need his blood. They need Baby Yoda himself because that is kind of leading them into these experiments when it comes to what looks like cloning, or when it comes to taking these test subjects and turning them into something. Does this lead to a character like Snoke, who eventually leads to a character like Emperor Palpatine? It's so funny how those two characters have always been the yin and the yang to each other, Yoda and Palpatine. And of course, the Empire needs Baby Yoda to bring him back from the dead, essentially. And we see they accomplish that in The Rise of Skywalker. Not for very long, but they do accomplish it somewhat in Rise of Skywalker. But part of me does think this is an interesting touch. And we all knew that Baby Yoda was going to be important to the Empire for some reason. Did they just want their hands on Baby Yoda because they wanted to kill Baby Yoda, or did they need him for more sinister purposes? And this kind of confirms that. We also got confirmation, and I think this is the first time we've heard this, that Cara Dune was indeed from Alderaan. I think that was an interesting touch for sure. I really hope they haven't said that before, because if they have, I will get destroyed. But being the first time that I remember this, I really like the fact that we can explore more with her character. I think her character does need a bit more fleshing out. But overall, seeing our three, Cara Dune, Grief Karga, and Mando together going on this adventure, and the addition to a character that I didn't think we'd get to see again, it was a very concise, interesting, fun episode, and one that I thoroughly thoroughly enjoyed. I would love to know if you guys have major issues with this episode. I guess there were some moments where I think the pacing could have slowed down and allowed the audience to take a breath for just a second. But overall, this was a very fun episode of The Mandalorian. What I've been doing over the last few weeks is I'll watch this episode, and then I will either go watch it again with my wife or my dad, who is thoroughly enjoying this series, so I will definitely be watching it again. But overall, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I appreciate it. What has been your favorite episode of The Mandalorian so far, and how would you compare and contrast them to each other? And the fact that, and I've not even mentioned it yet, Moff Gideon made his appearance in this episode. It looks like we're going to be getting a lot more of him kind of setting up that army to go take on the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. Good luck to you guys, but I want to see more Moff Gideon, man. The setup for him last season was fantastic. We've got the Darksaber and Ahsoka. We need to see some Ahsoka. We got that name drop last episode, so I have a feeling Boba Fett, Ahsoka, all of those characters are coming. You guys are the best. Stay tuned. Lots of reviews today. The brand new Hulu movie, Run. That will be the next video on this channel in about 3 hours. Appreciate it. See you later.